Hi, and welcome to this Anna solo episode all about birth imprints. Today, I'm going to talk about what is a birth imprint? Does it involve um, for you to look at yourself and how you are affected by your birth imprint, and then also your baby. So if you're pregnant right now, or if you have children already, how you can identify their birth imprint, and if there are some things within your birth imprint or theirs that you would like to heal or rewrite to help yourself and your babies live a more wholesome, safe, grounded, conscious life. And if you are pregnant or if you have babies already, I really want you to see this as knowledge is power. And with this awareness, you can help your babies, you can help your children. If there is something you're identifying through their birth imprint that is not ideal. Let's face it, birth in itself is a traumatic event. To be birthed is a traumatic event, right? And whether, things happen in pregnancy, in birth, in the early hours, days, weeks, years after birth as well, things will happen. Life happens. You can't control life. And there will be traumatic things for each human being. And it's with awareness that we can rewrite things and heal things and come to terms with things and not let it dictate our lives. And I mean, that's really my intention with this episode. Um, Definitely not to, for you to feel shame or blame about how you potentially carried or birthed your babies, or make you feel bad in any way, shape, or form. It's truly to give you the awareness so that you can potentially do something about it, because awareness is everything. It's how we can heal things and cut through generational stuff, and just move forward in a different way than allowing the unconscious to rule us, right? When we bring it into the conscious, we can change things for ourselves and for future generations. So I hope that you like this episode, that it gives you something and you take it away for what it's supposed to be giving you, which is knowledge and awareness. I also want to flag for that today, this week, there has been a lot of flies coming into my midwitchy cottage. And so if you're watching on YouTube, you might see flies flying around or even walking across the video just like that. Just happened. And if you're listening, I don't know if you're going to hear any buzzing, but if you do, there is some fly magic here, um, just for your awareness. Now let's dive into today's episode on birth imprints. First of all, what is birth imprints? Let's start there, because I think for many of you, that is not something that maybe you're aware of or have ever thought about or ever heard about before. So it makes sense to think about the birth imprint to be the birth, right? And yes, that's a very big and informative, pivotal part of the birth imprint for sure. But we could really see it as starting even in preconception stages and conception stages, the energetics of how you were invited into this world, right? Looking at your mother and your father, your parents, and their, what were the circumstances of when you were maybe imagined, if you were planned, if you were invited consciously by them? How were they living? What are their patterns, their belief system, the energetics of their life? Were they stressed? Were they relaxed? Were they in a loving relationship? Were they not? Was there stuff going on in their relationship? Did they want children? Did they not? All of that, it really starts here, the energetics of your preconception and conception stage. But we won't really dwell there today. But that can be seen as a part of the birth imprint and what you're coming in with. Or for you, if you are now a mother or a pregnant mama, also for you to look at with your babies. Where were you at and your partner, and the life circumstances of inviting your children in? And then we come to where it really starts to be even more so an imprint for the baby, which is being in the womb of the mother. And this is something that we know now also has been, verified through research. We can see through epigenetics, transgenerational trauma studies, we can see how babies in the womb learn and even change their gene imprints depending on what they're experiencing through the vessel of the mother, right? And this is definitely, again, I want to reiterate, it's not to bring worry or shame or guilt to you if you are pregnant or if you've carried babies and throughout your pregnancy, maybe you had massive life altering events happening. Maybe you had really stressful periods. Maybe you were suffering from anxiety or depression throughout your pregnancy. Maybe the relationship with your partner broke up. Things happen, life happens, and this is not for you to feel that at all, but for you to be aware of, yes, this definitely did imprint on your baby. And for you, if you look at yourself and your own birth imprint, looking at your mother, father, how it was when you were in your mother's womb, this has impacted you as well, and has, it lives within your cells, in your body, in the memory of your body, and in the subconscious mind. It has also formed belief systems within you, what you experienced, or your baby's now experiencing, or what your baby's experienced in your womb. So we can see maybe that a mother, there's a fly. When a mother is carrying a child and she is holding a lot of fear or anxiety, maybe that will also then make that baby prone for that, or make a baby very shy, or have separation anxiety, or just develop anxiety in their lives, are more prone to that. I mean, there's so much we could talk about, and I'm not going to go into depth and detail about all the things that can be. It's more for you to become aware, and maybe take some time now after this episode to look throughout all these stages of where the birth imprints for you and your babies happened, and what could that have informed you or your babies about life on earth, and how to prepare for that, or live with that, or react. So pregnancy is a long time for that baby inside the womb to be imprinted on life. In the first trimester, you have the primal brain being developed. And then in the second, the limbic system. And in the third, the neocortex, as the baby's birthed. And beyond that, the frontal lobes. It all is shaping the nervous system of that baby, what that baby is experiencing through its mother. So the mother's feelings, reactions, what she's going through, of course, what she's eating, drinking, what environment she's in. I mean, all of this is teaching the baby and imprinting within the nervous system too. Is it a safe world outside? Am I wanted? All of the things that you go through as a pregnant woman, the baby also feels. And this has been known throughout the ages, in all cultures. There's been a big emphasis to protect the mother, to, from conflict, from negative emotions, to just protect the mother's space, because it has been known that that will also be the experience of the baby. And then we have the big, of course, pivotal moment, which is labor and birth. And during this time, I mean, there's so much to say about this. I don't even know where to start. And it's really, an invitation for you to both look at what you know about your birth, and how you can see how that potentially has imprinted into you, what you then carry in life about feeling safe or belonging to this earth or trusting people or being, feeling, loved and secure within yourself, all of this. Let's just start with, like, was your labor and birth spontaneous or induced? I mean, today especially, so many babies are being evicted from their mother's womb before they would have chosen to, without a thought from the healthcare professionals and the society that that would be any sort of problem with that. But that is already interfering with the birth imprint that maybe that baby was going to have. Maybe that baby would have chosen to come 2 or 3 weeks later, even than when it was being forced out of the womb. Medications absolutely imprint on babies. Interventions imprint on babies. For example, someone who has had a forceps, vacuum delivery, maybe induction, that has been then forced out maybe earlier than they would have wanted to themselves, or being, birthed themselves, might have an imprint of being rushed, might have an imprint that they start projects in their life, they birth projects, but they don't birth them. It ends up being that someone else needs to help them birth them or make them into reality. Or they are people that will rush through things and birth them, maybe not ready. So there's a lot of different ways that you can explore if you were an induction or if you were a forceps delivery, for example, and how that potentially has impacted the way you birth things, either projects in work, babies as well. That can really inform you about that, for example. If you were, or your baby were, an emergency cesarean, there might be a lot of fear that has been running through that mother's body, definitely being experienced of that baby being born in a cold environment, not through the vagina, but out through the tummy in a cold environment, being received by cold hands, being potentially separated from that mother instantaneously to a resuscitation table before being reunited to the mother. And there might have been a long period of time of being separated. That can hold a very strong imprint, right, about being abandoned, being separated, being birthed before potentially being ready. There's so many things within that. And I really encourage you, with whatever kind of birth you had or your baby had, to really sit in meditation and contemplation and tune into your deep, rich mama wisdom and intuition to see what was that imprint, all the layers of it. I mean, I can just mention like popcorn some things here, right? But it's really also very individual what the imprint became for that baby, right? There's not like the cesarean is like this, bam. It's very unique, of course, like all of us are unique and all our births are unique as well. So the imprint will be unique to you and your babies. So feeling into that, like tuning into that, what did it feel like to be birthed in that way? And, even if the labor and birth, quote unquote, was a natural vaginal birth, like what was running through the mother throughout the labor and birth? Was there a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety? What was the imprint for that baby as it was coming through the birth canal, as it was coming out? Who received that baby? In what manner? What was the noises, the sounds and the words first spoken? Was both parents in the room or not? Was the mother awake or not? Conscious or not? Semi-conscious or more drugged? Was that baby received by hands that loved them or strangers? Was it received and taken away from its mother or not? All of these things, right, leave a really strong imprint. So our brain and nervous system, the plasticity is the strongest the younger the baby. So in the womb, very strong. The minutes, seconds, days after birth, like so open, everything. It's like everything is just it's like a sponge, that baby, just learning absolutely everything, every little mini detail. So it's so important to really think about and tune into even the smallest things that happen throughout that labor and birth, and the minutes after birth, in that initial coming into earth side. How was the transition for that baby? Was it gentle and loving? Was it chaotic? Was it separation? Was it resuscitation? um and whether or not that needed to happen or not, and there's no judgment in that. It's just like, but what was the imprint for that baby? If they did have a strong separation happening directly after birth, or maybe, as for example, myself and many of us, but I was born in the 80s, I can only speak of that. We were put in nursery for hours between breastfeeds, or maybe we weren't even breastfed. I mean, that's another imprint about really, like, bonding, being close to our mother's heart, being nourished by her body, all of this, right? And so this is also a part of the birth imprint. It's like not just the birth, but the minutes and days and hours after birth and weeks after birth, and the breastfeeding and the bonding journey of that mother and baby, and also the other parent, of course, if they are present, if they're there, how are they present, all of this. I mean, it's so much part of the birth imprint. And as you sit with yourself, and maybe you, if for your own birth imprint, want to interview your mother and actually ask her about all these kind of stages that the birth imprint is being formed, especially pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum period, and was she, breastfeeding you? Were you skin to skin? Were you in the same room? All of this, right? It will teach you a lot about yourself, the birth imprint you hold unconsciously for most of us, in our bodies, in our reactions, in the way that we relate to people, circumstances, work, life, just how we feel about ourselves on this earth, on this planet. I mean, it's really big, the birth imprint. The way we can then use this knowledge is actually then to start to identify, okay, maybe I have abandonment issues, maybe I was separated from my mother. How can I, for myself, strengthen me feeling that I belong on this earth? I'm not separated. I am cared for. I'm loved. I'm welcomed. All of these things that maybe we didn't receive through the imprint. We can do that through inner journeys. I work with women like that, preparing for birth, like looking at their own birth imprint, and like, how can I imprint that on myself? Maybe using mantras, writing affirmations in your home, rewiring your own subconscious mind and conscious mind, through hypnosis, or conversations like these with someone that can hold space for you, and discover the things that maybe you are holding within your unconscious, and then through conversation, conscious mind. And with your babies, if you can recognize that, okay, well, I had to have as an emergency cesarean, or things happen throughout my labor and birth or my pregnancy that have imprinted something in my baby. I can maybe even see that in the baby now, that they hold certain imprints. Maybe they have a strong separation anxiety or something like that. How can I secure the attachment? Because the beauty is, with this knowledge, especially as mothers of young babies and children, the blueprint, not including the pregnancy, so from birth to 2 years old, is when we set the blueprint as human beings, where we're the sponges, we're just learning about everything about life, and how to be, and how to be safe, and how to act to be accepted by the tribe, and reactions, and how do we express fear, and love, and sadness, and grief, and we just learn all of this from our mothers, especially, and our fathers, and the environment around us, and the imprint from pregnancy, birth, postpartum, all of this like baked together. So we have this period of time up until 2 years when the blueprint is set. So if you know already now, okay, the birth didn't go to plan, or maybe there's some things that was imprinted, I can see in my child that there's something here, then rewrite the story by showing that baby the opposite. Like, be a really responsive parent, work on the secure attachment, teach your child the opposite than maybe what has been wired through that birth imprint. And then you also have up until 7 years of age to refine that. That's a time when children refine it through, again, observing the world, other people, other kids. They go out into the world, experience things, learn. So you can be a very active parent there and help them rewire whatever has been maybe, the birth imprint from pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and so on, right? But it's not too late. If you, of course, you're not 7 or under, with awareness, with looking at the different stages of the birth imprint, with discovering how your birth was and the first few years maybe as well for you, your relationship with your mother, your father, the world, all of this, you can start by consciously being aware and also then rewrite the story for yourself and your children as well. Help them, whatever age they are, to imprint on something else. So knowledge is power. Now, this is just a short kind of glimpse, right, into the world of birth imprints. And I really want to emphasize that knowledge is power, and that you can yourself take yourself into a journaling exercise and reflect. You can meditate yourself and go back and meet yourself as the baby in the womb, or through birth, or in the early days or years. And you can hold yourself as that baby the way you wish to have been mothered or experienced, entering into life. You can employ someone, we can work together and work on your birth imprint one-on-one if you want, or you can seek out someone who can do that for you and with you, or with your babies or children. And I am also going to offer a birth imprint workshop. So if that's something that you would be interested in coming along and going deeper into your birth imprint together with a group, then you can also join that. So you can sign up for interest for that workshop in the show notes down below if you want to work on that as well. So there's ways to move with this, but I really truly feel that knowledge is power. And it's amazing if you know this now, if you're pregnant right now, to really be conscious about what is the birth imprint you would like for your baby to have. Really working with your baby about how does your baby want to be birthed. They can tell you through dreams or through you sitting in meditation and tuning in, where do they want to be birthed? Who do they want to have present at the birth? Who is the care provider they would want to choose? Coming more into your mama wisdom, body wisdom, tuning in, letting your baby be a part of the birth journey that you both will have. And knowing that life happens and it's inevitable for you to, quote unquote, take this the right way, fuck up your children. I'm saying that in the most loving way, because no one is perfect. You'll never be perfect. You'll never do everything right. And also, I truly believe that, you chose your parents and your baby has chosen you. And in one way, shape, or form, they have also chosen the journey that you will go on. And potentially the birth imprint that they're coming in with. Who am I to say that they didn't choose to be induced, that they didn't choose to have that more traumatic birth experience of maybe needing forceps or being given forceps, whether or not they needed that, or cesareans, or, fill in the blank. So I'm not saying that that is derailing their birth imprint. Maybe that was their choice. maybe they wanted or needed to go through that for their evolution and their soul journey, what they're going to create in life. So, you know, it's still in the mystery, the birth imprint, birth in itself. I mean, it's so much in the mystery. And that is why also I love working as a birth worker, because it's amazing to walk alongside women and families through this amazing rite of passage that is so much in the unknown, why things unfold like they do. It's way beyond our little human mind and perception too. And there's so many layers to why things unfold the way they do. So give yourself grace and compassion. Know that you're always doing the best that you can as a woman, as a human being, as a parent, as a mother. Really trust that it's not just all up to you. It's also a dance with your baby and what they're coming in with and what they are here to learn, they're choosing. And it's also the greater mystery of all beyond, you and your baby as well. There's three in this dance. It's the baby, it's you, and it's the great mystery. So compassion, love, and understanding for yourself. And it's never too late. Just because something has happened doesn't mean that you can't rewrite that, heal that, grow from that. When we do experience traumatic things, I truly believe that they are catapults for our growth. The times when I have been in the biggest grief in my life, I've also been in the biggest kind of experience of beauty, rawness, love, the depth that I have gone to that I couldn't access before that grief or that traumatic event, or, fill in the blank. They're teachers. And so we, with our human minds, we say, oh, this is positive, this is negative, and we judge. But who are we to judge? Again, the great mystery holds wisdom that we maybe not, we're not able to comprehend. So letting go of, some of the maybe weight on your shoulders for things that maybe have been or unfolded in your pregnancy or your birth or your postpartum, or, as well with your own birth imprint, like have compassion and understanding for your mother. I mean, this is also when you start exploring this, it makes you understand your mother, maybe your grandmother more, if you go beyond your mother to your grandmother as well. This is work that we do deeply within the Sacred Birth Worker mentorship, and something I also invite my clients to do if you would ever work with me. And I really invite you to go on an exploration. There's so much to learn and unveil through these inquiries. One thing I always think about when talking about the birth imprint is look at the world leaders today. Look at the state of the world right now. And then think about these people's birth imprint. They were most likely born around maybe the 40s, 50s, 60s time. Some are coming into maybe the 70s, but in this time, the birth practices were horrific. All babies were separated. Most countries, like most babies, were born by drugged mothers or, by forceps. The mothers were routinely given episiotomies. They were given enemas and shaved. There was so much practices that were horrific both for the mothers and the babies throughout these times. And I mean, there still are today too. They're just different. I just think it's curious to think about the state of the world. And also, if you just look at leaders also beyond that, like before now, like the twilight sleep, women were fully out of it. The babies couldn't connect to their mothers throughout the labor and birth because they were sedated, they were drugged. The babies too came out with respiratory distress, and maybe like most of them needed resuscitation because they were drugged from these drugs, and we were all brought out by forceps and separated and slapped. And I mean, gosh, the birth imprint of the leaders for the last 50 years or more, I mean, it's horrific. It's horrific. And that's why I truly believe that, the way we are birthed is so important for the state of the earth, and that, peace on earth really starts with birth. The way we treat and care for mothers in pregnancy, the way women birth their babies. And yeah, I really hope that this has awoken something in you that might even change the course of how you birth your baby, or where, or with whom. And consider your baby's birth imprint. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for voting for this episode. The reason I talked about birth imprints today was because you chose to pop on into Spotify and cast your vote, or DM me, or vote on the stories. The Natural Birth Podcast has an Instagram. If you're not following us already, please do, and be an active participant. I love your comments. I always answer. If you DM, I always answer. If you pop it on into the stories and engage with me, I always engage back. I love this community so much. You bring me so much joy. And each and every one of you, when you take the time to connect in with me, or when I invite you to come and cast your vote about what do you want me to speak about next, it really does matter to me to continue doing these. And so I'd love to know. Please come on in and share. Again, here on Spotify, you can leave comments. Please do if you're listening on Spotify. On YouTube, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you don't know already, every Wednesday, this episode that is released on a Sunday is aired on YouTube. So you can come and look at me as well. If you're listening to this, you can come and look at YouTube in a few days. On Wednesdays, it's aired, and you can comment down below on YouTube. Please do. I love it. I will definitely engage with you if you do. And you can, of course, come on onto our Instagram, the Natural Birth Podcast, and comment on the reels. I always share a few reels every week of the guest or of me, and what we share about. Thank you for tuning in and listening. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about birth imprints. And if you want to work with me deeper on this, or if you want to attend my upcoming workshop on this, please sign up via the link below and you'll get information about that. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please consider sharing it, leave a review, or make a contribution on our Patreon page. And if you want to connect on social media, then find the podcast on Instagram as the Natural Birth Podcast. Thank you for listening.